All right, welcome back to the channel. Before I do anything, let me just say to you guys, I am doing a fight companion tomorrow. My very first live stream chat on YouTube where you guys can watch me watch the fights, and I will talk about those fights. Simultaneously, you can ask me questions. I just turned on the super chat and all that stuff. I never even looked at that stuff. Apparently, that is how people make money on this YouTube thing. But anyway, I'll answer questions regardless. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Well, I just got done. Well, I actually didn't even get done. I have been watching the podcast episode that I posted where I was on the accent, which I highly encourage you guys to check out. It's really good. I mean, I had a great time on the podcast. I haven't even been able to get through all of it. Like, you guys say that you love long form stuff. Okay, it's 2 hours. There's no way you guys are getting through 2 hours, at least not in one sitting, because I couldn't even get through 2 hours. But that's probably because I got to the part where I'm talking about myself, and like my history. And somehow I didn't find listening to myself talk about myself that interesting. But maybe you guys will have more luck with that. But I wanted to talk about a few things. This is a big video, actually. It's a big video because I want to put some ideas together around MASVIDAL because, and this is going to sound redundant initially, but it's not. Okay, those of you who watch all my videos, because I want to talk about the concept of destiny around MASVIDAL, Aldo, those two primarily, but mostly MASVIDAL. And I realized I did a video called Destiny and put it right across the front. So don't take that as me, because there are thoughts that I left out of that one that have become very, very clear to me about this upcoming fight. I want to talk about some hilarious comments that I saw in my Mike Perry video. I want to talk about Dana because he had a big press conference where he said a lot of very notable things. He talks a bunch about Mike Perry and what he thinks that the UFC should do for him and why what's going on with Mike Perry and where it's coming from. We'll talk about that. And I want to talk briefly about Paige Van Zandt and Rose Namajunas, and I'm sure that there'll be other things that and then the Conor Masvidal fight, but that's part of the Dana thing. So before I jump into all this, if you like the channel, subscribe and ring the bell. I promise you, this is going to be a consistent thing. If you're finding yourself connecting to this content, you're gonna be like, wow. You're gonna go back through all my stories and videos and whatever. You're like, geez, he's always like this. How is that possible? Someone in one of the videos or in the comments, he's like, stop doing so much cocaine. Like, cocaine? Guy, first of all, cocaine is garbage. If I was doing cocaine, here's what the video would look like. Like, listen. So there have been some leaders in the world that might look evil at first, like they look really evil, but you gotta respect their leadership. You gotta respect their ability to unite their nation behind a common message. And the more evil they are, the more impressive they are as a leader, because it's harder to get people behind that kind of message. Do you know what I mean? That's what cocaine people look like to me, okay? That is not a conversation that I personally partake in, but that is a conversation that I have witnessed many times late at night. People just like, yeah. Think about Stalin, man. Think about Stalin. The gulags, a gross concept, but, in his way of thinking, he needs one mind, the whole country. There's no individuals, one mind. And I'm like, you need a mind to stop doing drugs and shut the fuck up. You sound like a lunatic, okay? Stalin's not cool. Nothing cool about Stalin, man. There's nothing cool about Stalin. There are plenty of leaders that you can admire who didn't massacre 100 million people, Like, I'm just saying, that's my personal opinion, But maybe I'll go rail an 8-ball, and then maybe I'll have a different opinion. Anyway, here's another thing that I saw in the comments a lot that I'm looking at right now on the monitor. People want to, you want to talk about a crease? Look at that crease. I saw a lot of that. People are like, get that crease out of your head, pal. You want to know where that crease comes from? Frowning at morons my entire life. When you make this face like a lot, like all day long, where you're just looking at people just like, okay, look at how the crease comes from looking down on other people. And so when you see this crease, Just imagine how stupid and inferior people look to me. It's such a bad joke. It's not true. I mean, it's partially true, but not the way I outlined it. Like, really, I'm talking about you, commenter. Like, this line is from people like you, okay? Purely judging haters like you. So when you see it and you're thinking to yourself, man, that's gross, you should think to yourself like, oh man, he's probably thinking about me. That's probably why it's so deep. Like, pathetic nerds that'll go in the comments and say something like that. How many people have you ever said that to in person? How many people have you ever made a comment like that about someone's physical appearance? Look at how upset I am. Jeez, I'm gonna run out and get Botox and filler right now because I'm so not good looking as a result of this crease. Said no one ever. Unless you're just fundamentally not objective and able to gauge a person's looks. This is a joke that's going nowhere. I have no idea why I'm still talking about this. But yeah, go fuck yourself, okay? Fuck you. Show me a picture of you. Let me gauge your face. Let's see. Let's compare. Let's compare bone structure. Gee, why am I still talking about this? Okay. Anyway, so talking about Masvidal and Destiny. Let's start there because I was thinking about this and wow, okay? Like, the heat in Abu Dhabi, I don't know why that triggered this whole like train of thought for me, but the concept of destiny is one that's not provable, right? It's not something you can prove. It's something that people choose to believe in or they don't, right? It's like, is there an element of destiny in your life? And I believe that the kinds of people who believe in destiny are the people who tie a lot of drama around the narrative of their life, okay? Like, there are a lot of people who, and their profession doesn't matter. They can be professional fighters or they can be accountants. But there are a lot of people who can just go through their life with the viewpoint that they're not that important, right? They're just a person living their life. There's nothing that important about what they're going to do, right? They're going to grow up, they're going to have some kids, they're going to make a decent living, they're going to save some money, and they're going to die. And that's going to be their life, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And candidly, for the most part, that really is the truth. Like, no one's really that big of a deal. Even if you're a big deal, you're not really that big of a deal. I had an epiphany one time when I had not slept for a while. Maybe it was when I was talking about Stalin all night or something, but I remember there's like in the morning after a long night, and sometimes you have like these moments of clarity, you know, like where like a different part of your brain turns on. It's like they're like adrenaline turns on to keep you awake, and then all of a sudden like a part of your brain wakes up and you're like, oh man, you could see something the way that it is that you weren't seeing before. And I'm not talking about being on psychedelics, it's a different conversation, but I do remember actually having this moment and thinking about Jay-Z and Beyonce and having the most clear understanding that the difference between being Jay-Z and Beyonce and being anyone else was nothing. That there was no difference. And that'll sound bizarre, and I actually can't even get myself back there when I say it out loud now. You know, have you ever had, like, those of you who have done psychedelics, you ever have like a really profound idea that you know you're right about, that is just crystal clear to you at the time, but then after enough time has passed, you like can't get yourself there again. Like you can't get yourself back to where you understood that profound thing the way that you did then. It was one of those. So the bottom line is people aren't that big a deal, really. But some people who view their life through the lens a little different than that and like to tie concepts like destiny to it, I think that's a better way to live if you want to aspire to big things, right? A lot of people don't care about that. That's the thing. It's like, it sounds like it would be a common sense thing. It's like, oh, you know, to aspire to big things. Like, of course, everyone wants to do that. It's not, of course. That is not, of course. Not everyone aspires to big things. As a matter of fact, the majority of people don't, right? Now, people who are dreamers do, and so they take for granted that, of course, everyone would want to have, you know, if they had the choice of this or that, everyone would want to be a big deal. And I would say that's probably maybe accurate, but a lot more people than you think don't look at the world that way, you know? But the people that do and who really do, it's a dangerous way to look at the world. It's a very treacherous way to look at the world because it's the ultimate gamble, okay? If you tie a narrative to your life that your life really matters and aspiring to big things really matters, And attaining those things really matters. And things like destiny. It's my destiny to do XYZ. It's risky because if you don't attain those things, if you don't make it, okay, you have now created a paradigm where you are a failure. And when you get into your, the age where you're going to have to at some point accept, like, these things are not going to happen. That's not a good place to be psychologically. And that's the kind of thing where people will eat a bullet. I'm not joking about that. Like, there's nothing, there's no jokes about that, right? It is a dangerous way to view your life. And, it's one of those things, it's probably one of the reasons that professional athletes have such a hard time when they retire, right? Because a lot of them who may not even consciously do it, it's just their talent threw them into a world where the whole world was telling them that their life is a big deal. And then, retired athlete, unless you're Michael Jordan, Kobe, guys like that, if you're just a pro athlete, you're a real big deal when you're a pro athlete. When you're 40, unless you are one of the top 1.1%, dude, you're just not a big deal to anyone anymore. And it's a tough pill to swallow for people. But if you are willing to take the gamble, right? If you're willing to put it on the line and risk it, not just wish for it, but put it on the line, tie your emotions to success, go through the steps that it takes to try to get there, the payoff can be astronomical, but the disappointment can be equal or worse. Think about if Daniel Cormier takes that third fight with John Jones. Like, think about it through that lens. And I won't judge him if he doesn't take it. I really won't. Like, something, for all my people that really watch everything and know how much shit I'm tying on that DC John Jones 3 fight, that, like, my absolute dream scenario is DC beats Stipe, wins the title, and then before he retires, one last fight, John Jones at heavyweight, and then he wins. But talk about tying destiny to a fucking life, right? And I won't judge him if he doesn't take that fight, but I'll tell you why I kind of thought this through. So when we were in Santa Cruz for the weekend, I ended up hanging out with this dude. So basically, anytime that we're in public, if I see a dude who, is kind of built, tatted up, I generally am like, well, me and this guy can either, stand across from each other and mean mug each other all day, or we can be friends. And so generally I go for the, weasel my way in there, and then we start rapping out. And shocker, we tend to have things in common. This particular guy was a Salinas State prison guard, California Salinas State prison guard, which anybody who knows anything about, like, these prison documentaries, is basically, it's like Pelican Bay and Salinas. Okay, it's a really heavy jail, like a really, really heavy prison. Level 4, like the top of the food chain, gang inmates, right? So he and I were rapping out for hours. That's how I got so sunburned, because I didn't want to be, I was having a great conversation with this guy and I didn't want to leave. But it turns out that his wife is really good friends with Daniel Cormier's wife. Like, their kids do something together. And and so I was talking to him about, trying to, use my new friendship to get that interview with Daniel. And then, so once that interview was actually kind of like a potential reality, and I had to really think about it and really think about, if I'm Daniel and I bring that shit to him and I lay the weight of that on him, right? Like, the way that I see it, if I lay that on DC, is it like, am I within my rights as a man to lay that on him? And I decided that I'm not, actually. Like, it's not my place to do that, because he knows that. And the level of risk it would take to actually take that fight as your retirement fight is so astronomical. It's not okay for another man who understands, not like these idiot reporters. I'm talking about someone like me who understands what that decision really is. It's not okay for me to project that on him and then pressure him about it. It's just not. The only thing I could do is in a way that is solely about me being inspired, talk to him about my viewpoint of it, especially through the paradigm or the viewpoint that he's going to win. But you can't press him. Like, you can't, because that is it. I mean, I won't judge him if he doesn't take the fight. The risk is that big. It's astronomical, the risk. But fuck, man, if he won, dude, if he fucking wins, and I think he's going to win. John looks very beatable now that he's off juice. Just gonna keep saying it. DC, I have never wanted anything more for another person than I do for you to beat Stipe and then beat John Jones and then wrap it up. Anyway, so with that in mind, so looking at this whole Fight Island thing through that lens, think about George Masvidal right now, right? I mean, he was not a factor at all 18 months ago. Not at all. He was a middle of the road. He was a good fighter. A guy that everybody had to take really seriously. Like, if you got matched up with Masvidal, it's not like you were loafing it in your fucking training camp. But he was not even sniffing the belt. I mean, he wasn't even in the, honestly, like, as a matter of fact, I think a good way to demonstrate where Masvidal was 18 months ago is to go look at, like, the welterweight or the, or just, I don't know, lightweight rankings and just kind of give you, like, so 18 months ago, he was basically equivalent to Al Iaquinta. Perfect example, right? Like, Jorge Masvidal 18 months ago was Al Iaquinta. Straight up. That's exactly who he was in the rankings. And he went and alone in the jungle had a vision of his life. He changed his life. He chased the vision, and now his destiny has manifest. And the best thing about it, and the reason I was thinking about it, is because now the tracking metrics are looking like this is going to be the biggest pay-per-view ever. Ever. Dana said that this is tracking like Khabib versus Conor, okay? That's because of Masvidal. So whether or not he wins, now, but let's actually not even do that. Let's say he wins, right? 18 months ago, he's fucking Al Iaquinta. Nobody in the division as it relates to the championship conversation. But he sees it. That's the whole thing. He sees it. He's the only one that saw it. No one else believed. No one. Just him. And from the jungle and the vision that he had about himself, his belief in himself, his actions, changing his life, reshaping his viewpoint, and then living it, he is now about to be on the one of the top producing pay-per-view cards of all time, and he's potentially going to win the welterweight belt as a 35-year-old getting his first title shot. And then on deck will be the biggest fight in the history of the sport when he fights Conor, because Dana White cited that in his press conference also. He said it would probably be the biggest fight ever. He wasn't, okay, like when I saw the headline about that, I assumed that he was going to be saying that that's the next fight, but that's not what he did. But he's only doing that because he's not going to chase Conor around. If Conor wants that fight, Conor gets that fight. I mean, it's as simple as that. And Conor will want that fight. So that's one thing I'll bet anybody. Okay, if Masvidal wins, okay, barring Conor having a title fight at 155, it's the only way that he doesn't fight Masvidal next is if he has a fight at 155 for the belt that he's decided to take next for some reason, which I would highly suggest that he didn't do that. Right? He's never going to get a better opportunity to win the belt at 170 than against Masvidal. Period. Unless Colby won somehow. Actually, no, still. Colby or Masvidal against Conor. That's a tough call. Either way, it doesn't matter. If Masvidal wins, which, if there's a God in heaven, please let Masvidal win. Yeah. So one note about Usman that I saw yesterday was that Usman's pops has been in jail for his whole career, and that he intentionally stayed off pay-per-view cards because he wanted his dad to be able to watch him fight. If that's true, that's a cool story. Not the part where his dad was robbing people, through like fraud or whatever he was doing, but the part about the, son and his father, I always have respect for that. I would say it probably cost him if that's true, because he is a champion who, by the way, speaking of the data points indicating a monster pay-per-view turnout, how stoked is Kamaru now, right? Now, what did I say? What did I say a long time? Go back to like months ago when Jorge and Usman were just starting to negotiate. It looked like they were like that fight was going to fall out. Masvidal was pretending like he was going to go fight someone else, and I was saying, is Usman out of his goddamn mind? He needs to do whatever it takes, because I didn't understand what was actually happening at the time. I thought that Usman was not like signing the contract. I'm like, is he out of his mind? Does he understand how many more pay-per-views Masvidal is going to do than any other opponent? I guarantee this is pissing Usman off. right? It's gotta infuriate him that Masvidal's that much bigger of a draw than him. But if he's smart, he's got a steel trap mind. Like, you could tell he has a very strong mind. But I think that Masvidal is taking the perfect mental approach, which is just utterly belittling it. It's like, I have no respect for you at all. None. Like, that is a very hard thing to hear someone say about you without letting it affect you. Like, do you understand how strong your mind has to be for someone to be saying that publicly to the whole world, and it have no effect? And I'm not saying like because I genuinely believe that an opponent of Khabib could say that to literally, and he would know that all 8 billion people on earth heard the guy say that. I do not believe it would affect Khabib's mental game at all. Like, not even a shred. I do not believe that that's the same for basically almost anyone else on the entire earth. I think that's actually a perfect example of, there are some of these things I understand, like some of these things where like I've told you guys a million times, like I can read people. And some of these things I can't even really verbalize very well because they're just things I know, but I wouldn't know how to explain them if I tried. This is one of those things. And I'm now kind of stumbling on a way to explain it. Khabib is like the one guy that literally would not rattle him at all. Okay? Where you can have an incredibly strong mind, but not strong enough to absorb knowing that there's someone out there saying that you have a weak mind and that you aren't shit and that you're nothing. Like, and I'm not saying that it's going to make you fight worse, better, whatever. I'm just saying it'll have an effect on you one way or the other. It might make you more, more sharp. Like, I think with Khabib, it wouldn't affect him at all. Like, I don't think it would matter. I really don't. Anyway, but yeah, being the B-side has got to infuriate him, especially being a B-side of this size. But if he's smart, he should know this gives him the opportunity to take what's Masvidal's, right? He broke Colby's jaw, okay? If he decisively beats the fuck out of Jorge, that is going to change the outlook of Kamaru Usman. I mean, it just will. You can always take what another guy has. I mean, like, Colby's hype is not real. Like, that's why, like, it doesn't really apply with Colby. Like, people want to see him lose, but everybody can recognize what's genuine, right? You can tell what's genuine. I mean, I'm kind of doing a shtick sometimes, but you could tell this is what I'm really like, right? Like, Colby, that's not who he is. He's just doing a character. That's why it's not really the same thing. Like, there's nothing really to take there, except that it was an amazing fight and, he kind of shut up the loudmouth. With Jorge, I think if Usman really fucks him up, that'll be very different. Because with Woodley, there's nothing to take from him. Like, Woodley is an amazing fighter, but he could never sell pay-per-views either, right? He was boring. It's about taking it from a guy who really has it, like Jorge did with Till, Askren, Diaz. So, Masvidal is presenting Usman with an incredible opportunity, and Usman is presenting Masvidal with the ultimate opportunity. So I am just beside myself with that. Now, let's continue talking about all these things that I wanted to talk about. So first off, or second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever this is off, do you know how many tests that Dana White said that they've done, like COVID tests that they've done leading into this event? He said 8,000 tests. Think about that. Think about the logistics and how many people that is and how many, like, it's amazing what they're doing. Like, it is amazing what they're doing. And Dana, they asked him, what went through your mind, when you found out that Gilbert Burns tested positive for COVID? Like, you just looked, you're like, oh, I lost my main event. What are you thinking? And Dana literally, before he even responded, I already knew what he was going to say. And he was just like, this is what we do. This is what we do. He's like, there's always a solution, and we always find that solution. I love that, man. I mean, look at what they're doing. Look at Fight Island, man. Like, there is a global pandemic, and I realize putting on fights is definitely the sport that is most conducive to being able to put professional sports back on versus hockey, NBA, soccer, NFL, any of those things. But they are putting on a masterclass. They're doing this fight on an island in Abu Dhabi where they built the infrastructure for this, okay? It's amazing. Like, this is just, how come John Jones only makes $5 million a fight when Tyson Fury makes 25? Because UFC builds an island to continue to make the sport run. Okay, what boxing organization is involved in the perpetuation of the sport like that? It's a complete non-comparison. Another thing. So Dana said that. So you're saying that the event is tracking like Khabib versus Conor, and he was like, and they were like, how much of this do you think is Fight Island? Like, why, like, that it's tracking this big, which is hilarious because he knows exactly what it is. It's Masvidal, right? It's Masvidal stepping in is why this thing is tracking so huge, obviously, okay? And now he knows how big of a needle mover Masvidal is, which he probably didn't know before because you just don't know. Like, when he fought, like, you don't know. Just like they didn't know how big of a needle mover Nate Diaz was without Conor until he fought Anthony Pettis. And he was like, oh, shit, right? When Diaz fought Masvidal, Diaz was by far still the needle mover. That is not the case anymore. Okay, now Masvidal is on Diaz level, easy. And so now he knows, but he's not going to say that, right? Because the entire negotiation between Masvidal and the UFC was about what's Masvidal's value. What does he bring in? Masvidal's like, I don't even need a guarantee. I just want a piece of the pay-per-view, what I bring in, which is fair. That is fair. It's a fair request. And, but Dana was like, I think the hype breaks down to a lot of different things, like, a lot of it's Fight Island, a lot of it's this, a lot of it's that. And it's like, always negotiating, right? He can't say, oh, it's all because of Jorge, because after Jorge, especially if Jorge wins the title and they go into the negotiations, it's like, if he acknowledges publicly that, oh yeah, this huge uptick is Jorge, because I guarantee Jorge's people know where it was tracking to. I mean, if they don't, that's shit management. So I'm not even going to entertain it. I'm sure that they know. I'm sure that they have, pretty surgical numbers on how much he affects it. So, yeah, exciting. All right, so now let's talk about Mike Perry. So here is something, just because of the number of views and the number of comments that I got, I've watched that video quite a few times. I feel kind of bad about what I said about Mike Perry. Like, I watch it, like, I feel bad for the guy. I really do. Like, I'm doing a video, so I'm kind of like, but I actually genuinely do feel bad about what I said. Like, the guy's like, when he's arguing out front and he's like, he touched me. Like, he genuinely believes that he was like wronged in that scenario. Like, he's not trying to be tough. He's like, I know it for some people who are, emotionally challenged with other people, I'm sure that it would be hard to read it this way, but it really is true. Like, he really, at least at the point of when he's outside of the restaurant, he's not trying to start shit. He really thinks that he was wronged. Like, he thinks that he was wronged. And then the guy talked shit to him and got his face. And, listen, he's still behaved pretty poorly. But I couldn't watch it without kind of being like, damn, man, like, I feel bad for the guy. He's clearly struggling. Like, he's struggling with something. And like, so what Dana said was basically that he was like, that the UFC wants him to get help. They want him to get counseling. And they kind of asked him like, is this a punishment? And he's like, no, I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying he needs help. He's like, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. He's like, I knew this was going to happen. He's like, you guys, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, 25 years. You start hearing things in interviews and this stuff's coming. And he's like, and he said that Perry said in an interview right after the last fight that he hates everybody. He hates the media. He hates everyone. And he said, don't step to me if you see me in the street. I mean, he literally said it like, so, and basically what Dana attributed that to was social media. He was like, he's like, look, I get on social media. I have a good time, man. He's like, I have fun, but I've been doing this for a long time. Like, that's the way I take it. He's like, Mike Perry does not have fun on social media. And I can relate to that, man. That's why I felt bad about the video after I really thought about that. Cause like, I read the comments and people are like, I mean, I don't get, shit that's like fucking, you have a crease in your forehead. I'm like, oh shit, you think I don't fucking know that? And you think that, my looks is an area that I'm insecure about? I have a vastly inflated view of my looks, I'm sure. I'm probably way uglier than I think I am. But But yeah, like, but other things that people say, like, I get mad, like legit angry. And I'm embarrassed by that because like you really put yourself, like this guy yesterday. Oh, actually this didn't make me mad, but like this guy yesterday said something about like just dumb shit. Like, I mean, if you watch my video yesterday about the Mike Perry situation, if you're even a moderate judge of character, can't you read that I'm not putting on a face? Like when I'm talking about how to handle yourself, if you find yourself in a street altercation like that, clearly is not coming from like, let me look like a person who's done, like, I mean, are you like, seriously? I mean, I'm not saying like, this is shit. I would never do that shit now. I have fucking kids, man. I have known I've felt like for the last 13-ish years, like where I, like around 13 years ago, where I was like, the next time that I punch someone in the street, they're going to die. And I need to approach my life that way, where I don't ever put a real shot on a guy unless it's a situation like that where I have no choice. Like a guy walks by, says fuck you to me, that's not an acceptable reason for me to hit a person anymore, like at all. Because again, like I knocked guy, like I have knocked people out before. Since I had a wife, I knock people out only with gloves on. I know what that looks like, okay? Like, it's scary. If you've actually knocked people out before, it's scary, okay? Like, every single time is super fucking scary. At least for me, super scary, dude. Like, afterwards when they wake up, you feel kind of, I don't know, like, it's almost like surprising that you're able to do that to a person. And simultaneously, when it's happening, it is terrifying because like you don't know if you killed them, whatever. Like, point I'm trying to make is I'm not saying I would do that shit now, and I'm not condoning that kind of behavior. But do you really watch that video and think to yourself, look at this fake tough guy just running his mouth about some shit he doesn't know about? Because that's the kind of comments that I was getting in the thing. They're like, oh yeah, and I'm like, and this guy asked me where I live because he wants to set a fight up with me. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, we can do it at the local UFC gym, when everything opens, but I'm going to live stream it. And I felt comfortable doing that just based on how he wrote his comment, which was not, I fight out of this fight club or this gym, because if he was like, yeah, I train at Victory MMA in San Diego. So, maybe we could set that up. I'd be like, oh shit, I should probably, do some research on this guy. Make sure that I'm not going to live stream myself getting my arm broken and my face smashed. Because, if a guy's training, high probability of that outcome. Guy who talks like that guy where it sounds like a person who thinks that I would be a dude that he got out of his car at a red light and punked. I think I'll be all right there. But anyway, I just don't understand it. Like the kind of people who would like seek someone out in the like I never said like a person who's not talking shit to you directly, and you're like, I'm gonna use the comments section to pick a fight with this guy. This is hilarious. I'm talking about how this. Well, actually, no. I guess I did say that it does bother me. So it bothers me enough that I'm talking about it this much, right? Like each individual one doesn't bother me that much. It's just the concept of it. Like I don't like people talking shit to me. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I am acknowledging it's a weakness. I'm not saying it like it's fucking cool that I get mad about some anonymous dickwad saying shit to me in a comment section. Like I'm saying it like I should be embarrassed, and I kind of am. But I understand where Mike Perry's coming from, and Mike Perry I think takes it a little more personally than me, and he probably gets a lot more of it than I do, obviously, right? Like I'm trying to think of the shit he must have eaten when he said that he was gonna have that girl in his corner, because I mean, I called him an idiot like 100 times. Like I literally feel like I feel bad about how I talked about him on this channel, because I'm just, I'm here to entertain, and I never really thought about it. I'm like, man, if he sees that, he's gonna be pissed. And I'm not like I'm scared of him. I kind of feel bad because I hate those guys. Because I always pride myself. I'm like, I never say shit that I wouldn't say to a person's face, and that's true 98% of the time. I don't think I would call Mike Perry dumb to his face. I can pretty much guarantee you I would not call Mike Perry an idiot to his face. I would love Mike Perry to his face. So I'm breaking my own rule with that video. I think that's probably the thing that bothers me the most, because 99 times out of 100, I won't say shit that I won't say to people in person, but I definitely would not call Mike an idiot to his face. So let me just clarify that and apologize to Mike, okay? I think you were acting like an idiot, but I wouldn't say it to your face. Anyway, last thing I had is I was looking at the Paige Van Zant part of the most recent countdown, and, you know, she's training in her hotel room. She's a tough girl, man. Like, you can, you know, in the fights, anybody who sleeps on her, dude, like, she is a tough girl. She's going to lose, I mean, just for the record. But she's very mentally tough, man. Like, very, very tough in the octagon. But that's a completely different thing than being an exceptional fighter, because being tough in the octagon, that is the fight itself. Okay, that has nothing to do with the discipline that it takes to go in there 3 times a day, or, you know, 6, whatever it is, whatever your training schedule is. Day in, day out, focusing, making sure that you're, you know, really thinking about where you want to, you know, mold your skills for your opponent. I mean, it's a very different thing than once you get in there being game bred. And she is absolutely that. But she's going to lose. I mean, bottom line. If she doesn't, I will be very, I don't even know what her odds are, but, you know, I don't like her. I don't like her winning that fight. But, yeah, they, and then, you know, Pat Barry said something about Rose Namajunas, and he basically said, he's like, you know, listen, at this point, she knows what she's doing. We pretty much let her drive when we get to this phase. Think about the development that she's made, given that comment, because Rose Namajunas was definitely not someone who was in the driver's seat when she was earlier in her career. So good for her. I cannot wait can't wait to watch her win tomorrow. That is me knocking on wood, because I should actually do another parlay where I throw Rose on there, like because my parlay is Jose, Masvidal, and Holloway. I think I'm gonna get on there and like mess around with different, you know, like 2 fight parlays, where, like, because if 2 of them win and a third one loses, and I'm gonna be like, why wouldn't I have hedged the parlay with those 2, right? I think I'm gonna do that. Actually, I'm definitely gonna do that. Anyway, so if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Thank you guys. If you're new to the channel, hope you enjoyed. I don't think anyone new to the channel will watch this far, but if you did, I feel like you're already going to subscribe, because I just talked for an hour. So yeah, I did this because you guys said you like the long form stuff, so I did a long form thing. Hope you liked it. Subscribe, ring the bell. Love you guys. Oh, I'm doing a fight companion tomorrow.